Alright, I'm going to record my second video, and a little bit confusing because I do have my class here today, but I'll try to go quick. This second section, section 3.5, is really easy because it's basically what we were doing before with our estimation of fractions, only now we're just adding them. So let's mark on our page. We're going to do section 3.5, and we're going to be doing estimation of sums using estimation of sums with mixed numbers and fractions. Alright, so our key word in this section is, just like before, going to be estimation. And if you recall, we used to have fractions, and we would have something like 1/5, and then we would turn this into one of our common benchmark fractions. And I would write this as CBR, and that means we're really looking for 0, 1/2, or 1. So you can estimate them a lot, and it cuts down a lot on the complexity, and it makes them much easier to add, subtract, and really see where they are between two numbers. So for example, if I was going to take 1/5 and I was going to estimate, remember I would ask myself, is it closest to 0/5, 0 in this case, or 5/5 as the 1, or in the middle I would divide my denominator by 2, or is it closest to 2.5/5? Well, I have 1/5. 1 would be kind of here. It's only 1 away from 0 and 1.5 away from 2.5. So 1.5 is, using our estimation, about 0. And if you recall how to do that, we did that in section 3.3. So if you don't remember how to do that, you can go watch that again and try it out. So these are our common benchmark fractions. Alright, now this time we're going to be doing some adding. So we have just two steps. Our first step is going to be approximate the value of each of the fractions using CBR. And then step 2 is simply to add the values to get our approximate sum. So remember, when we do this, we're not finding what they actually equal when you add together. We're just finding what you estimate them to be, which is useful for visualizing in our head and kind of getting the general idea of what these look like. So let's do a quick example. Okay, we're going to we're going to estimate 5/9 plus 1/77. Okay, so I'm going to do kind of what I did before. I'm going to take my 5/9, and I'm going to say, is it closer to 0/9? Is it closer to 4.5/9? This should be a 9 instead of a G. Or is it closer to 9/9? Well, it seems pretty obvious to me that this is closest to 4.5/9, which is in my center. So I can estimate this to be 1/2. Now let's take a look at 1/77. Is it closest to 0/77? Half of 77 is probably like 47.5, 48.5, I think. So I'm going to put that, so 48.5 over 77, or 77/77. Well, pretty obviously, when they're this obvious, you don't really have to write it out, but I'm going to just for good practice. This looks clearly like it's going to be my 0 side, so I can estimate this to be about 0. So I can say 1/2 plus 0, what does that equal? And it equals 1/2. See how kind of easy this is? I'm going to do 2 more examples, but if you feel like you get it from here, you can stop and go ahead on to the problems. Example 2. Alright. We are going to be estimating a couple things. First, our first problem that we're going to do is 18/30 plus 5 and 9/10. Sorry, I should have made that 5 bigger. Plus 5 and 9/10. Okay, so my 5 is going to stay. I don't have to worry about that. That's going to be good. I know it's in there. But I'm going to be looking at these fractions specifically. So let's look at the 18/30. Is it closest to 0/30? 15/30? Or 30/30? Well, if I look at this 18, it's clearly closest to 15. And that's going to be my half. So I'm going to write 1/2 plus. Okay, so now I'm good. Now my 5 and my 9/10. Let's look at my 9/10. Is this closest to 0/10, 5/10, or 10/10? And this 9 is definitely closest to 10/10, so I can estimate this to be a 1. So I have 1/2, which came from here, plus 5, which came from here, and then I have 9/10, which turned into a 1, right? So I have 1/2 plus 5 plus 1, so I have 6.5. There I go, and that's how I estimate it. Okay. Next, let's do another one. Estimate this sum. 6/7 plus 1/2. All right, 6/7. We can take a look at it. I can estimate this is almost up to 7. So I'm going to go with this one as being a 1. And my 1/2 is kind of easy because that is already estimated. So I've got 1 plus 1/2. So my answer, oops, I forgot to box this one up there too, is 1.5. Okay, let's do one last one. Example 4, 29/30 plus 7 and 8/10. All right. So 29/30, I can estimate that to be about 1 because I kind of did the steps in my head of figuring out what is going to be closest to what. And I know that 29 is going to be almost 30. I've got my 7 and I've got my 8/10. Now I can do my 8/10 real quick. Look at 0/10, 5/10, 10/10. And I can see that 8 is definitely going to be closest to 10, which is my 1 value. So I can do plus 1. So I have 7, 8, 9. So I have for my answer approximately 9. And that's pretty much all you're going to do for these. It's pretty easy because everything turns into a half or a whole, and you should be able to go through these problems pretty quick. All right, that's all, and good luck.